Good.
I'd like to call the November Maumelle Civil Service Commission meeting to order. First off, do we have any comments on any non-agenda items? Okay, our first order of business here is approval of the October 10 Commission regular meeting minutes. You should have copies of that.
Move we approve the meeting minutes. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed say no. Motion carries. Under new business, and this is, I kind of worded this maybe a little bit vaguely, but Chief Williams is asking us to qualify or clarify something for him. Chief, I'll let you start that off.
Okay. The officer that y'all allowed us leave to hire, if you'll remember, was the police chief in Alexander, who's in Saline County Sheriff's Office and Mayflower Police Department. Got notified, as did everybody in the police department, that our promotion testing would be coming up in January, that kind of thing. He asked the question, is he eligible? Which got us to look at the civil service rules, and there are specific requirements, and then there is a section that says, or otherwise eligible. Mr. Norris, is that the?
Or equivalent law enforcement experience.
So, my question to Mr. Norris was, is he eligible? And Mr. Norris looked at it and he said he thought it was a commission question. So I come to you tonight asking you, do y'all think all qualifications there make him eligible? And whatever else they do, we will either let him test or not.
And what position would he be testing for, sir?
Sergeant. Well, I guess he'd be
Both?
eligible for sergeant and lieutenant if you deem that the otherwise qualified would be.
Well, from what
So
I
years of experience, we're putting well past the 5 years and the 3 years, all the years of experience, not in Maumelle, but in other departments.
that was my recollection with his experience. He would certainly meet the years of experience, just not necessarily in Maumelle.
No.
And to clarify, that is the question we're asking, and I don't know that I don't know that there's a specific request that you do or don't do it, but just that we have a consistent approach that would work in each incident. For those that do have their code book here, there's several relevant sections. In Chapter 2, the very top, the first sentence says, no person shall be eligible for examination for advancement from lower ranks to higher ranks until the person shall have served at least 1 year in the lower rank, etc., etc. It doesn't specifically say there that it has to be in the department, this police department or fire department in other cases. Then when you go to the section on, say, lieutenant, the language is a little bit different. It says no person is eligible for examination for advancement to the rank of sergeant until the person has at least 3 years of continuous experience within the police department, with at least the last year served in the rank of police officer 2 or equivalent law enforcement experience. And so rather than me form my opinion as to what the Civil Service Commission meant when they passed this, we figured we'd bring it to y'all for your opinion.
Discussion?
Well, in my opinion, if we need to bring talent in and we don't have it here, we should certainly, if we get an applicant that meets those qualifications, I think we ought to give them the opportunity to.
But he is here.
And I think that he should be allowed the opportunity to test.
He's already employed?
I know there's
How long has he been here?
Well, so y'all shouldn't really be thinking of an individual because however y'all determine it will be how it goes forward or how it's applied in the future. And so while it's relevant to this specific individual, it's actually a broader policy.
I would like to see this whole section reworked to be a little bit more clear, but that's not helping us tonight.
I agree, but again, I go back to my point, and not for this specific situation,
Yeah.
but in the future. If the chief has somebody he can bring in that meets the requirements that we need and can't get filled, those people shouldn't be able to come in here and then be told, but you can't test for 2 years for promotion.
Go ahead.
Caleb,
Uh-oh.
external applicants, and under A says if there are 2 or fewer applicants for a specific vacancy, the Civil Service Commission may open the promotional examinations to qualified applicants currently employed by police and fire departments other than Maumelle Police or Fire.
Yes.
So,
Well, so it's slightly different in that, let's say that we had no one who was qualified for a particular rank. There was no one who could test, and if they did test, they were somehow disqualified or otherwise not qualified. Then the police and fire department could hire for that higher rank from outside the department. So they don't even have to enter the department and then move up. Regardless of how rapid, you could hire, say, a police captain from outside of the department.
Well, I know you talked about it the last time you were before us. You guys have a nationwide problem getting people right now. In fact, I read an article about it today, and I forget who the guy was, but he said he's never seen it this way, just all over the country.
We, 2 weeks ago, we hired a former Little Rock police officer she was on the list.
How long has this individual been in law enforcement?
8 years, 7 years. Like I said, he's been with Swain County, Alexander, and Mayflower. And for disclosure, he was fixing to make sergeant at Mayflower. He was offered a sergeant's position there. So he's been there well over the 3 years.
Again, though, we probably ought to back off from looking at this as an individual case and think in broader terms. I read through all of this several times when the question first came up, and I finally went to the city attorney, and he was, we just need to rework the section. It's not clear enough.
But the first part says that they have to be here for 1 year, right?
The first part of
Minimum requirements.
under minimum requirements, I don't think it says they have to be here for 1 year, or it's unclear.
It says no person shall be eligible for examination for advancement from lower ranks to higher ranks until that person has served 1 year in the lower rank, except in cases of emergency.
So the question, as it's being asked, is, does it count if that 1 year in the lower rank was at a different department or agency?
I don't see
Well,
that.
that's
And I don't see that.
And when I,
what do you mean you don't see that?
To me, it says that they're here promotion inside of Maumelle. I mean, we're not.
Okay.
It doesn't specifically say, or from external experience. It just says you have to be at that lower rank in this code for 1 year.
But then you go to other spots in here, and
Right.
the term
Yeah.
equivalent law enforcement experience comes up several times.
But
But,
that's just for description of the rank or position. It doesn't say that they can't test from an outside to get to that position. But what I'm reading on too is for promotions, and the promotion says that you have to be at that rank for 1 year.
What I'm reading here says, of course, the 4 years of continuous experience within the police department.
yeah, that's what I'm looking at,
That-
within the,
The police department, not a police department.
yeah, it's a lot different.
with at least the last year served in the grade of corporal or police officer 2, but then we say, or equivalent law enforcement experience.
Right. But that would be to allow for that position to take it. But I think we still need to go back to the minimum requirement to even take it. So
But
we
they
can,
must have
for that,
served 1 year
they
at
have
the
to be
lower
a year,
rank
right,
here.
they have to be here for a year before they can test. And then we can look at it, I would think, and say, okay, you've got the experience to meet that position, and you've been here a year, now you can take the test.
Then you can test.
And so the easiest way to think about this for tonight is we're obviously not going to be changing any rules at tonight's meeting. But if we had guidance as to what direction we will be changing the rules or not changing the rules, we can address that situation and give the chief a decision as to this, and then we can work on updating the language to make it a little clearer in the future.
Chief, this is not really our purview, but do you foresee any morale problems within the department from something like this happening?
Well, we talked about that, and we've asked the question, would people cry foul or say, hey, wait a minute, he's not qualified? And I'm not gonna say that that's not gonna happen. I haven't heard anybody say that. What I would hope that our opinion and approach would be is it's a competition, let's go compete. And may the most qualified person get the position. That would be what I would hope to see. But again, I haven't heard I haven't gotten any feedback from any of the other officers, but I don't know that it's commonly known within the department that Officer Jackson is asking for clarification on this.
How many applicants will we have for sergeant?
Oh, Mr. Coney, I don't know. I'd have to put it in my head right now, but there will be 7, maybe 8, maybe more. Not everybody on the police department that's eligible will take it. Traditionally, several don't. Several don't have the minimum time anywhere. So it wouldn't surprise me if we all had 7 or 8 applicants here. Assuming most of them pass it.
Well, it seems, one thing does seem clear to me tonight, and the city attorney mentioned direction, and what we might be thinking about that. My personal opinion is I'm leaning in the direction, particularly knowing how tough it is to get good police officers now. I am leaning in the direction of counting quality outside, experience outside the Maumelle department.
I agree.
We're setting the precedents.
Absolutely.
What do you need, Billy? An emotion or a motion to?
I don't know. Do we need a motion?
I suppose an appropriate motion would be something to the extent of the experience outside of this local department would constitute experience for purposes of promotions. And then if we do that, I can draft some sort of rule change so that we have it in writing in the future.
And understand, I keep mentioning the difficulty of getting, attracting good police hires, but this is also going to apply to the fire department. Mm-hmm. It's not a agency-specific change if we make it. I'll entertain a motion if you're through discussing.
I'll make the motion that we allow it and that the city attorney draft a clearer understanding of what we can and cannot do as far as time served within the city of Maumelle before they can test. And just make it clear that it's,
Yeah, I think we need a specific. to
it would
say
need,
you have
need to be worded specifically that could come from outside or within the city of Maumelle. But in this case, I would certainly make the motion that he be allowed to test.
It's not this case.
Not this case.
And that's why, on the minute, that's why, looking at that minimum, it says you have to be at the department for a year before you can test. And that's saying you have to be in the department for a year.
That's what it says right now.
Yeah. I mean,
Can't argue with you.
you're right.
Well-
I mean, it's saying for a year,
And
because that's the minimum requirement. And then you get into the description of the positions, and the position to be advanced to the next position, you have certain requirements. But just to test, you have to be here a year or an emergency. And I don't see it as an emergency.
No, I wouldn't, no.
I mean, it's kind of,
and just to clarify, and I don't,
yeah.
however
I
y'all
mean,
decide is,
if we wanted to change it to 6 months or something like that, but it's almost like
you can't change that
Right.
1 year just
Right.
because of the underlying state law. But it
Right.
says no person shall be eligible for examination for advancement from lower ranks to higher ranks
Mm-hmm.
until the person shall have served at least 1 year in the lower rank.
right,
That's state law too.
right.
And so the question is whether
Whether or not that.
whether or not that
1
1 year
has been constituted from something else. Okay.
could count from, and what I hear you saying is that the
Right.
way you interpret that is that it must be
It's-
in the department.
Because
But that's
it's-
actually what y'all are deciding.
Because it's from the city of Maumelle. And that's, right. And that's what we're, but, I mean, it doesn't say per state, it's per this code. And right now, it's saying that it's 1 year.
What's the HR director say?
I mean, I don't want to hold anybody back either that comes in and says, hey, I've got 10 years of experience at this position, and I want to, take the test.
I want the best people.
I
everywhere
do
we can
too.
get.
I mean, absolutely. But it's whether, right, yeah, I guess we're considering whether the 1 year at the lower rank is here or anywhere. And that's
No, I mean, that'd be my opinion, is it clear, is it clear in those statutes or those bylaws or whatever they are, the Civil Service Commission, that it's 1 year here? Is it very, very clear to you that it's 1 year here?
Not, no.
It's not.
No.
Because
Yeah.
This
So-
equivalent
No.
law enforcement experience
Right.
keeps
Right.
coming
Right.
up.
I assume it is a year because it's the Maumelle code.
Well, and the problem is how those codes are typically taken, or any rule that we have, we took it from somebody else. I mean, that's how these are typically written, is we took it from Little Rock, or we took it from North Little Rock, or somewhere like that.
And if I could clarify, the minimum requirement section is almost word for word from the actual state statute. So what I did is look at, have any courts interpreted this particular issue in some of the other cities that have civil service commissions, and I didn't find any guidance as to how it had been applied on the state level, which it was the framework for that particular portion. So,
It looks like, well, I know we've still got a motion, we don't have a second yet, but it looks like to me, and of course, state law overrides anything we've got. I haven't even finished, and our city attorney's already getting ready to say something. Can we do this? We can change and clarify ours. We can't change this other one.
so
And I can't declare this an emergency. All right, we have a motion on the floor. Bo, could you shorten that up a little bit?
I guess I'd like to make a motion that the city attorney clarify time and service for promotion to where it is clear that it does not have to be within the Maumelle Police or Fire Department to make them eligible to test.
Everybody clear on that?
Yeah, you want to, yeah.
I'll take a
You-
second.
I'll second.
Our discussion.
Well, I just want to make sure they have to be in the lower rank, whether it's here or anywhere, for the 1 year.
Absolutely.
It's gonna have to be, that's state law.
Yeah.
I don't see how
So what are we asking for
we
then?
can touch that. Basically, the way I understand the motion is we are asking the city attorney to help us clarify the Maumelle portion of this.
Instead of the department, a police department.
Chief?
I have one thing on the fire department side, since you guys kind of threw us in. As long as the experience is career and not volunteer. On the fire department side.
We don't do volunteer.
If you have a volunteer that has 15 years of experience on paper, might have only made 3 calls during his 15 years of
Well,
service.
that's not
So
15, yeah.
That's the only thing I wanted to clarify.
Right, volunteer service doesn't count.
I want to clarify that I'm never going to volunteer.
Having a hard
You don't have
time getting
volunteer,
them when
you
you're
don't have
paying them.
volunteer policemen? Oh, okay.
You had one. He's called a constable.
Oh, that's right. That worked out well.
Yeah. So I have a motion and I have a second, I believe.
Yes.
Bo, you're gonna kill me, but for clarity, repeat it one more time. Or have, Mr. Secretary can read it back to us. I want us, everybody to understand 100% what you're voting on here.
Have the city attorney clarify the Maumelle promotion as to a fire department or the fire department. That's the way I understand it. Any fire department, any police department. Experience.
Specifically in the lower rank, I guess. I mean, is that where we're?
Everybody understand what you're voting for? Any more discussion?
Yes. We're still not answering what he's wanting to do.
We've answered it. We can't do it.
Can't do it.
Okay.
Well, we
Well,
can,
State law says we can't do it.
And
well,
I hate to keep injecting myself into the argument. The state law says that they have to be in the lower rank. Some people will read that and read the lower rank as being in that department immediately, it must be in that particular department. Other people can read that and just say that, if you're a sergeant in one department for 30 years and then you move over to a new department, you've been in that lower rank for 20 years, but it just was in a different department. And there's no legal guidance, there's no court opinions, there's no follow-up material on whether the lower rank necessarily means they must be in that department.
There may be after we're done.
There may be after you're done. And so, and I'm not trying to say, y'all are going to make the decision and then, who knows, it may end up in court someday down the line and some judge will actually agree or disagree with you. I don't anticipate that, but it just hasn't been an issue in any of the cases that I've read.
it's just whether or not we want to consider lower rank, as it's spelled out here, as Maumelle or anywhere.
And so the state civil service commission laws basically say that the civil service commission has to pass the rules that put into effect some of these principles. This was one of the principles. And since there is no guidance as to whether or not outside experience can count, here we are at the forefront making that decision.
So you are telling us that the way you read the state law, it is not clear to you that their experience has to be in the department.
That is correct.
Okay. Well, we're really looking at two things here. I mean, we've got a request for clarity in one particular case, and then we've got the motion that you made. Let's go ahead and get the motion out of the way, and we'll come back to the other. All in favor, say yes.
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 Yes. Any opposed?
Opposed.
4-1. Now to the specific issue, do we want to let a highly qualified officer go ahead and enter the promotional testing?
This one time?
The motion that I would recommend would be a motion to consider outside experience as meeting the experience that we have as requirements, if that's what the commission wants to do.
But isn't that in conflict with what we just voted on? We just voted on, they gotta be in this department for a year, and you're saying, well, maybe the experience should override the fact that they have to be here a year.
I don't think that's what we just voted.
I think the motion removes that.
Yeah. The motion allows outside department experience to count. That's what we voted for.
We're just trying to determine what that 1 year in-law rank, where it is. How do we interpret that? Do we interpret
According to
that just-
what I'm hearing from the city attorney,
And,
you can interpret it either way you want to.
right, and that's what we're voting on, or that's what,
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we interpret or acknowledge that the 1 year in lower rank is universal.
I'll second that.
Is what?
Universal, or
Regardless.
regardless of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no.
Opposed.
4-1. Motion carries, chief.
So Officer Jackson can test for the position.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well,
We'll talk about the details, but the general principle is there, yes.
and it only goes to whether or not they can test. It doesn't determine what they can test for.
Well,
Because he meets the requirement, but then now it's got to go determine what he tests for, because you can't pick
Yeah,
anything. You still got to
he
meet
has
the,
to meet the
still meet the
requirements
requirements of each one.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
which,
right.
each one, yeah. It's just whether or not
And you still gotta be on the
Whether
top
the
three.
experience was here or elsewhere.
elsewhere, right, and that's all we're looking at.
Mr. Chairman, would y'all mind if I? excuse
No, sir, I know you have someplace to be.
me? Thank y'all.
Our second order of business, I hope is gonna be a lot more simple than our first. We have a request from the, from the fire chief.
If you could make heads or tails out of what me and Commissioner Durham came up with, we have a situation where we have one of the people that are gonna take the battalion chief's test that is gonna be in Emmitsburg, Maryland at the National Fire Academy on the date that we set up as the written test date for battalions. Originally, my thought was just to let him test on the 22nd, or 26th rather, whenever he got back, let everybody else test the 22nd. Okay. Being in the fire service as long as I have been, I know that's probably gonna come up with some people saying this individual got extra time to study. However, having been to the National Fire Academy as many times as I have, this person's actually probably getting a shortcoming because he's not gonna be studying
No, he's not.
very much while he's up there for a week.
Mm-mm.
He's gonna be studying the material that's, pertinent to the class that he's taking up there, so this is gonna be kind of set on the side burner for a while. So what I'm asking is for just the written test date for battalion to be moved to Monday, the 26th of January.
Let me give some of you
Thirty.
newer folks.
That's already scheduled now for the 26th, and you wanted the 30th?
You're wanting to move it from the 26th to the
To the
30th?
30th?
Is that the date? My bad.
That's what the minutes say.
I've slept
Right.
since then.
You slept since
Yeah,
then?
so it is the 26th. It's a Thursday, the 26th. Move it to the 30th.
What is your other applicants think? Have you asked
I haven't
them?
asked them.
Yeah, I was
I mean,
gonna,
I
that's
I have
my
no way of
question.
knowing exactly who's gonna put in for it. I mean, we haven't signed up for it or anything else.
So nobody else is gonna be out of town, that's what I'm asking.
And if we reschedule it to the 30th, is there gonna be another conflict?
Right.
I have no way of knowing that at this point.
What the chief is asking for some of your newer members is certainly not unprecedented. We started several years ago giving soft dates, timeframes more than anything, to the departments because we kept having the problem of, well, I had my vacation planned or something like that. And it's never, you're always open for criticism if you let someone take a test early or they take it late. You just are. We've done it before, but it's only because in that particular case, it was a police lady. She was required to be at that training, and there was no way she could test. I hope we don't run into a can of worms by rolling this to January 30 and then have another applicant have an issue with that.
Right.
And that's the chance we take.
Well, the academy is something you have to apply for 6 to 9 months
Yeah.
in advance, and then you don't really know what date they're gonna pick for you.
Oh, I assure you, I think it's a great thing they're there. I would prefer to roll it to the 30th rather, and let everybody, hopefully everybody, take it at one time rather than try to schedule two different dates for other people.
I think it's more up to the, it's up to the chief. Do you want it on the 30th?
Well, I mean, I'm doing this to accommodate the individual that's going to take training to better himself.
Right.
Yeah.
He actually offered to take it early. I said, I really don't like you doing that. I'd rather you do it after you return. And realistically, if you want to keep it on the 26th, anybody that gripes, I got big broad shoulders, they can gripe at me. I mean, it's
But he wouldn't get to take it.
not on the 26th, he would take it on the 30th. It'd just be a special, here you go for him. I'm not gonna make it to where that individual, by going to training to better himself to serve this community,
It's penalized.
doesn't get to
No,
take the exam
I
because
agree.
he's out of town. I'm not gonna do that.
I think you should make a motion, Billy, on what you had just previously said.
You want the motion from me?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
I vote that we approve the fire chief's request for a change of dates and battalion chief testing from January 26th to January 30.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. HR Director, what's going to be our HR Director situation when we get into all this promotional testing?
They're gonna be here by the end of the year, is my goal. Or
Good.
first of next year,
Good,
yeah.
good, good. I don't think we've ever done this without
Right.
a HR Director. I know we haven't, not since I've been here.
Well, it may not be a trained HR director that's ever done it before.
But at least there'll be somebody to do it.
Right, right.
I stayed at a Holiday Inn last night. I can find it.
You did?
I helped with the testing the other day, so.
You stayed at the Holiday Inn, you qualified, huh?
We need a motion for an executive session to formulate our oral interview questions for fire engineer, police lieutenant, and police sergeant.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? No. We are headed to executive session. Just go out the blue room when we leave.